Hey everyone, welcome to the dialogue. Okay, today I'm looking at the body language of a man who is pretending to be a social provocateur leader and businessman who works for clients to protest at certain events in the United States. But I would like you, the learner of body language, to watch his mannerisms, his facial expressions, which will display major deception, and where he later admits this towards the end of the segment. Let's take a look.
The group Demand Protest, which describes itself as, quote, the largest grassroots support organization in the United States, says it will pay professional protesters $50 an hour in addition to a $2,500 monthly retainer to support their efforts.
Bit ridiculous.
We're joined now by Dom Tulipso, Director of Operations in Los Angeles for Demand Protest. Dom, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no problem, Tucker.
Okay, so on the get-go, this is what I saw when I first saw this guy here. I just thought, actor. That's the first thing that came to mind.
So this is a sham. Your company isn't real. Your website is fake. The claims you have made are lies. This is a hoax. Let me start at the beginning.
And he's nodding in agreement. He has a sign of a little bit of shock on his eyes, and you can see that his brow here is furrowed and is contracted. That means that he is falling into the fear category right now.
However, with your name, Dom Tulipso, which is not your real name.
Did you see the wee look on the side there? That's also a case of deception, and how am I going to get myself out of this one?
It's a fake name.
Well,
we ran you through.
And as we can see, so we're going to look at the cluster of deception mannerisms that he is going through at the moment. So we've had the look, the tongue in the cheek. We've had the look into the right-hand side, and that does indicate construction of what you are saying. And of course, his furrowed brow, contracted brow there.
Law enforcement level background checks, and that name does not exist. So let's start out with the truth. Tell me what your real name is.
It's Dominic Tulipso. It's per L's are silent.
Okay, so Dominic, not Dom. And of course he looked over this way. That's construction.
That's a lie, and you know it's a lie. And we asked you for ID at the Los Angeles Bureau, and you said you didn't have ID with you. But doubtless you have a wallet on you. Every grown man does. Hold up a credit
He nodded in agreement with him.
card. You can cover the number to our camera and show us any piece of documentation with the name Dominic Tulipso on it. And you can't, because that's not your real.
Okay, well, okay, so we looked up, looked down. In a way, subconsciously, when we look down, we're going, whoa, okay, keep myself safe from people checking my lies out. Brings it back up and looks over to the right again.
Sure.
Again, we've got the contracted forehead here. That can indicate stress and or fear.
Sure, absolutely. I'll do that in just a moment. I might just begin with wondering, Tucker, you're not accusing me of being a hoax, are you?
I'm saying that your name is fake and this company is fake and that the claims you've made on your website are false. And so my question for you is why? Is this
So now he's feigning surprise. Oh.
an effort to discredit?
And that little fake, what? Oh, well, I didn't know that. That's feigned and put on. That's why I said actor when I first saw his face.
The protesters at the Trump inauguration? Is it an effort to convince conservative news
Licking lips, he is stressed.
organizations to pick up the story and therefore highlight their gullibility? What's the point of the
And he nodded his head because he agrees with Tucker.
ruse that you're perpetuating on the American
And why do we touch our nose when we are under stress? It's because the adrenaline is running to it. Blood is running to our nose and it gets very itchy.
news media?
Sure, absolutely. Great questions. I mean, basically, there's no way that a legitimate news agency would have somebody on that didn't really know what they were saying or was just kind of talking out of their behinds.
And he's talking about himself, as we'll see later on in the segment.
There's a certain amount of vetting that goes on behind every news organization. So I would assume that I wouldn't be given airtime on a national stage unless I was legitimate.
And you can see a sign of contempt, unless I was legitimate. Contempt. Also, he was shaking his head the wrong way, which was incongruent with what he was saying.
Well, I'm vetting you right now, and I'm beginning by saying you are not legitimate. You are lying. We know that.
And he's lying again because he's nodding with it.
You have fooled other news organizations. You did not fool us. And my question is, why are you doing it? And
when we tuck our mouth underneath the top lip, we are hiding what we want to say.
And I guess let me just satisfy our viewers who maybe think, well, maybe we're miscalling this. On your website, you claim that you pay a retainer to 1,817 operatives.
In a way, he was covering his mouth and soothing himself by touching his beard.
Every month. Now, if that were actually true, that's $54 million a year you're spending just on retainers. It's another $30 million a year if you're paying them for 6 hours a week work. That's demonstrably silly. You're not doing that.
No, we're actually doing $80 million a year.
Another complete and utter fabrication. Look at the contracted forehead again. Stress.
So I don't know quite where you got those numbers, but those are definitely obviously dated. I do want to mention the fact.
Wait, so hold on. You're not conceding that this is a hoax. You're saying that this is a real company that's engaged in the activities you say it's engaged in.
Absolutely.
That you're hiring protesters. That you have 1,800 of them already on retainer for $2,500 a month, and that you're
extra closing of the eyelids. It tells us that there's a bit of deception. There's a whole cluster of things going on with this guy.
affecting American politics by doing this.
Yeah, we actually changed our mind though about we're no longer actually going after Donald Trump. We're actually going after the protesters at the inauguration. So we kind of changed our minds actually recently, and that was
Oh dear. Oh dear.
mainly of the enormous amount of hate mail that we received, people, making death threats, and they basically just really talked us into changing our position. So what we're doing now is we're actually protesting the protesters.
Okay, but that didn't happen because you don't have a physical address, because you don't have a real office. Your website was just put up, your Facebook page, same thing. You haven't been receiving hate mail because you don't exist.
So that was good fact checking by Tucker.
Okay, so if you do exist, why don't you give me some evidence that you're real, beginning with your actual name, which is not Dominic Talipo. And by the way, your business partner doesn't exist either. So let's just be straight here. Let's just be real. Yeah.
So you can see that his lips were sort of going into regret. So he put his jaw slightly out and his lips down on the edges there.
What is the real story here? Why are you doing this? What point are you trying to make?
Yeah. The main point basically is that we are
Complete construction. So he's all over here with his thinking.
greatly supportive of national treasures such as Julian Assange, Edward Snowden,
right?
And we really support their efforts to really get the truth out there. And in the case of the current client that we have right now, that client is very interested in releasing the Roswell papers.
Really? So you're pretty supportive of Peyton Manning, are you?
And so you see this guy is also laughing because he knows he's been called out. And so it's hard for him to actually keep that smile from coming out.
Extremely, yeah.
Whoa. Okay, so the eyebrows, the eyes, and he's a complete actor, guys. I wouldn't be surprised he does this for a living, actual acting.
You're not gonna, obviously.
Sip of a cup of water because his throat is dry. That's also a cluster mannerism of deception.
This is performance art. I will say you're pretty good at it. When you convince...
And he had a bit of contempt up there. He knows he is.
Papers like the Washington Times, which ran this pretty straight, to run...
Tongue-in-cheek again.
Your lies, to run this hoax, which I will concede is kind of...
And he's touching his nose again because of the adrenaline and so many clusters of deception here.
Music. What was the point of that? Beyond just amusing yourself. Are you trying to make a political statement?
I don't know. It's pretty darn easy these days to just say whatever the heck you want on national TV and have it pass off as truth. And, it's pretty, it's just pretty incredible to me how easy it was to get the cup.
Okay, that is absolutely him calling himself out here. So he's got a whole lot of contempt for, I guess, mainstream news.
Eventually became a supporter of Assange, and so we are now supporting Trump in the hope that the Roswell documents from 1947 are finally released and put back into the hands. It changed when the election and the Assange connection was made. He essentially became a supporter of Assange, and so we are now supporting Trump in the hope that the Roswell documents from 1947 are finally released and put back into the hands of Fisher Stevens.
Contempt on the left-hand side.
Critical Roswell documents. All right, we'll give my
Yeah, critical Roswell documents, not. He's making that up and pulling it out from his you-know-where.
best to Peyton Manning and also to Mrs. Talipo, if you would. Thanks a lot for joining us, Dom. Whoever
So you see that he's grinning from ear to ear, and he knows he's full of it.
you are. I can't believe. Where's last question? I'm sorry. Did you think that we were going to fall for? I mean, be honest. You think you're going to come on? And we're going to
I'm just surprised. You put me on. That's what's surprising.
And that is the truth.
Well, because it showed up all over across American media, and I'm reading this, I was saying, well, that's not true. Who is this guy? And so I'm glad you came on to semi-explain
Well,
it.
God bless you for fact-checking, even if you did it when we were on the air.
Oh, no, we knew ahead of time. But good to see you anyway. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
There you go. He's giggling to himself because he knows he's a fraud. He's just an actor, guys. But these are fantastic clusters of deceptive mannerisms that we found with this guy here, Dominic Tarusso, whatever you call him. His name's probably Steve Smith somewhere. Thanks so much for watching the dialogue. Please ding my bell for other cool videos on body language, micro expressions, etc.